Hello there and welcome to Full Chat with me, David Prutton.
And me, Ewan Thomas, celebrating all things we love about being on two wheels.
Full Chat is powered by Bikesure. As the UK's largest independent motorcycle insurance broker, Bikesure will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help save you money on your annual bike, scooter or moped insurance and much, much more.
So please don't forget to press the follow button wherever you get your pods from, Apple or Spotify. And if you want to make sure you want to see us in fully Technicolor, you can watch us right now on YouTube as well.
Okay then, our special guest today is a motorcycling phenomenon and I'm so excited to have him here with us. There's no point padding out this intro, Ewan, because he's quite simply the fastest road racer in the world. It's the one and only Peter Hickman. Hello.
Hey, how you doing, guys? You good?
We're good. Honestly, Peter, thank you so much. We've been talking about this for a while now, getting you on, and we're so excited. Let's just get straight into it. I mean, what you can do on a motorbike is ridiculous. I mean, for people who might not know, you hold the course record at the Isle of Man TT, averaging 136.3 miles per hour. I think it's 17 minutes to cover the whole of the island. Wow. I mean, there's been some amazing names in the history books over the years. I mean, first and foremost, how proud are you knowing that you're the fastest ever?
Yeah, I mean, the lap record is something that obviously gets spoken about quite a lot. And lap records are awesome to have, of course, and it's a nice cherry on top, but it's not really what any of us racers go there for. Like, it's just a nice accolade to have. And as you said, 136 mile an hour average. The majority of the lap, we're talking about B roads for anybody that doesn't know the Isle of Man TT. It's full of B roads. There's no motorways. There's no big A roads. It's all B back country roads, basically. The course is 37 and 3/4 miles round. There's around 260 corners-ish across that 37 and 3/4 miles. When you then understand that, you realise just how fast 136 mile an hour average is. And for the majority of the lap, actually, we're probably over 160 miles an hour. So it's a mega fast place. Anybody that's not been before, the first thing I say is you need to get yourself there. Even non-biking people will have a great time on the Isle of Man, particularly over TT 2 weeks, which is always the end of May, beginning of June. And it's just a really cool place. But going back to the lap record, yes, it's really, really nice to have the lap record. I've held it a couple of different times now, which is really cool. But really, I'm obviously there to, first of all, enjoy myself, because riding bikes for a start is an enjoyment. I'm fortunate and lucky enough to make it my job, which is an extra bonus for me. And then to be able to actually race at the Isle of Man TT is something even better and bigger again. So obviously I'm there to race and to try and win. And winning is a big part of why I want to be there, but also I just enjoy racing and riding around the Isle of Man TT. It's like nothing else I've ever done or ever tried to do. And I've tried lots of other different things. I'm quite a sporty person anyway, so even growing up, I was anything from a cross-country runner to a badminton player to rugby to football. I did a bit of everything. So I've always been quite a sporty person, and I've tried all sorts of different stuff, including bungee jumping and things like that. Nothing gets close to the adrenaline rush that you can get from particularly the Isle of Man TT, but even just riding a bike, to be quite honest. A bike is so freeing. It gets you away from the rest of the world. I described it as escapism in its purest form before, and that's something that I still stand by.
So Ewan and I were chatting before we came on, and the fact that we could put this together and speak to you, we've spoken to some wonderful people. I mean, this one really got the juices flowing, didn't you? And because I mean, believe it or not, the prep that we do prep as well, mate. Can you imagine? When you're looking at the background of our special guest, and then you look at the information that's available. So take the TT, take the lap on your own platform as well, showing people the footage from the chin of your helmet. I was watching. I've watched it a couple of times. I'll be honest. The first time made me feel really, really queasy because, when you're trying to work out, well, what do I concentrate on? Do I try and look at what you're doing at the same time? Because was it Joey Dunlop that said about the TT, there's a green blur and a grey blur, and you try and stay on the grey blur for as much as you possibly can and stay away from the green bit.
Yeah.
But just, I mean, it's to class it as poetry in motion does it an absolute disservice because and the second time around I looked at it, I was trying to concentrate on the bits on either side. So when you're told to ride a bike, you look at the patch in front of you and aim for that, and hopefully the bike goes that way. What on earth and how on earth do you do what you did for that 17 minutes? Because is that the most purest form of concentration that you would ever wish to experience?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be really surprised. Like, yes, obviously concentration is super, super high, particularly at the Isle of Man TT. The lap that you're talking about, really, with the chin lap, is actually just a demo lap. It's actually quite a slow lap. So that, believe it or not, yeah. So that lap is averaged about 118 miles an hour ish. It's a demo lap. It's actually quite a steady lap, which is why I'm wheeling and messing about, because I'm just really having fun, to be quite honest. I'm actually trying. I'm hoping that I'm going to run a camera. So that's a really good angle. But it's really difficult to ride the bike with the camera there on your chin, because normally I have my chin flat on the tank because I'm fully tucked under the screen. But obviously if I did that, you wouldn't see anything. So for that entire lap, I'm actually sat up a little bit, up out the bubbles. I'm in the wind, which is even harder, to try and give the camera the good angle, because the whole point of the lap was for, it was a demo lap. It was HP4 BMW race. So it was a BMW HP4 race motorcycle, and it was part of their advertising promo for the bike. So obviously I needed to give as much good coverage as I could give. So it was a really late night. That's why the sun is also really low. So I've never actually ridden the bike at that sort of time before, which nearly caught me out a couple of times with just.
But you said the sun on the intro, like when you can't see, you literally can't see.
Yeah, because I was
thinking, Christ.
Yeah, I had to have a clear visor on because they wanted to be able to see my eyes from the other camera angle. If you go on the BMW YouTube, you'll see there's about 17 cameras on that bike and me. And they flick between all the different camera angles, whereas the one I put on my YouTube is just a rider's point of view. So because of that, they wanted to see my eyes, so they wanted a clear visor on, because obviously normally I would wear a dark visor. So not only was I not necessarily out of my comfort zone, but it's not very often I wear a clear visor anyway. And then on top of that, it was really late at night. So, I'd done my practice sessions, then the sidecars have been out and done their practice session. And then once the last sidecar's kind of far enough away that I won't catch them, then they set us off on the demo laps for whatever they're doing. So I was doing the demo lap for the BMW. Michael Rutter was doing a demo lap for a different magazine and stuff. So, but that's why the sun was really, really low. But that was actually, it's about 18 odd minutes, that lap, whereas the lap record lap is 16 and a half minutes. Right. You're talking 2 minutes faster. It's completely different again. And something I'm trying to do for this year, I've actually found a camera that I've been using inside my helmet. So it's actually on the inside of the visor, so it won't affect me at all from a riding point of view, and gives a really good idea of what's actually going on, because I can ride properly then, because I don't have to think about sitting up to get the best camera angle. I can just ride, and you should see exactly what I do. And I've used it at Daytona when I raced in Daytona a few weeks ago. And at Donington for the British Superbike test recently, I also ran it, and it's come out really well. So what I would like to do this year is do a lap at over 130 mile an hour average, but on an inside rider point of view, because nobody's seen that yet. As a proper point of view, no one's actually seen quite how fast that is. And honestly, if it comes out how I'm hoping it will come out, it will blow people's mind just how fast it is.
Perhaps you'll definitely be sick if you watch that.
Stood against the wall, just going, just give me a minute.
What I find fascinating, and you touched upon it there, with the difference in conditions with the light. So when I watch the TT, and I just think, you're going through shaded areas, then you're going into blinding sunlight, and I'm watching all your footage, and the road markings are literally going, and someone made a really good comment on YouTube, and they asked the question, said, you must be wired differently. And I don't mean your skill set and your bravery, but the fact, do you see things slower? Someone actually said, these guys must see time slowed down, because what I'm seeing is just a blur of everything, but you're obviously relaxed, you're at one with the bike, but does things feel slower to you? Are you different, do you think?
If you've been driving at 30, when you first do 70, it actually feels quite fast. Straight away, it feels quite fast, right? That's your brain suddenly having to catch up, because you're suddenly taking in all this information a lot faster. After kind of 10 minutes, you might find yourself creeping up in speed by accident. You don't even realize you're doing it. That's because your brain's then finally caught up. So what happens is exactly the same thing on the Isle of Man TT. The first night or two, it feels like you're doing warp speed 9. Like, that's just how it is. It just feels ridiculously fast. And then after a period of time, your brain starts to take in the information really far ahead of yourself. So then by the time you get to it, you've already processed that information, which then means everything feels like it's slow. And exactly the same way as if you've been on the motorway for half an hour doing 70 miles an hour, you slow down to do 30 or 40 miles an hour, it feels like you're stood still. And the reason it feels like you're stood still is because your brain's still taking all the information in miles ahead of you. And so everything feels like it slows down. And it's exactly the same principle, but we're talking about 200 mile an hour in a lot of places in Canada. So you slow down to do 150 miles an hour, it suddenly feels a lot slower.
Right, Pete, I mean, you probably gathered already we're both a little obsessed with, I mean, not only the TT, but quite simply you, by virtue of us peppering you with questions for so long. And we'll come to that very shortly. We'll come back to it shortly. But take us back to the beginning. So your dad raced bikes. So when Iwan asked you about that capacity to be able to do it the way you can do it, is there something in it with regards to being it in the blood, in the genes? Was it always going to be something that you wanted to follow in the same footsteps with?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think bikes in general tends to be a bit of a family thing, doesn't it? One way or another, if somebody in your family was riding, then you end up riding yourself or you want to ride. But my dad raced back in the 70s, probably the heyday of motorcycle racing, really.
Yeah.
He raced against Kenny Roberts, Barry Sheen. He got to race against some proper legends of the sport, Mike Halewood, them sort of people. Unfortunately, had a really bad accident at the end of the 70s. So in 79, he had a really bad accident at Mallory Park. Big crash, got run over a couple of times, ended up in Leicester Royal Hospital for 18 months. So he had multiple fractures all over, pelvis in 5 places, femur was smashed to bits, punctured both lungs, all ribs, bar 2, broken back, shoulders. He literally, proper messed himself up. So he went into hospital in 79, he came out in 81. And then after that, obviously couldn't race. He did ride a little bit, but which he wasn't meant to, because obviously he's quite damaged. He's got a lot of titanium in him still from then. Still holding him together now, in fact. And he was already a mechanic and a development engineer anyway, but he obviously threw himself more into that. Once he couldn't race anymore, he was running teams, developing bikes, building engines, that sort of thing. So when I was born in the late 80s, I grew up around racing. Whether he wanted it or not, I was in and around racing. And from an early age, I've always wanted to ride and race bikes. However, he wouldn't let me. So he wouldn't let me have a bike. He did not want me to go riding. He didn't want me to race particularly. So he pushed me into everything but. So football, cricket, darts, golf of all things, which I hate.
I mean, that's a difference in it.
He pushed me into anything that was kind of low risk, high wage or high reward. That was what he was pushing me towards. My answer to that was as a 12-year-old kid, I bought my own bike without telling him after saving my pocket money for a year. So I used to get £1 a week pocket money. And I saved it for a whole year, so I had 50 quid, and then went and bought a Kawasaki AR50 in a wheelbarrow full of bits, and hid it around the back of the house. And that's really where the story started as a 12-year-old. And first of all, he gave me a bollocking, obviously, once he found it. I don't know why I thought the back of the house was a good place to hide a bike, but anyway, obviously as a 12-year-old, I wasn't that sharp, apparently. But,
who's put that there, Dad? I don't know.
After he found it, he decided, well, if I'm going to do it anyway, then he wants to teach me the right way, because he'd been there, he'd done it. He'd raced at British Championship, he'd been a front runner in British Championship, he'd been a front runner at the Isle of Man TT, won a Manx TT in 77. He'd raced and qualified at Grand Prix level, which is an achievement in itself. So he'd been there and done it, and he's basically been by my side ever since, really.
I think I know the answer to this one, so I was going to ask you who was your hero growing up, but surely it's got to be your dad, because that sounds like a super dad to me.
Yeah, definitely a super dad thing, isn't it? It's he is one of my heroes, really, to be quite honest. And obviously, I know more about him probably than anyone, because we've spoken about all sorts of stories and things. I mean, he's 76 this year. He'll be turning 76 later on this year, so he's cracking on a bit now, the old boy. But he's still got some really good stories, and he's got a lot of experience inside of motorcycle racing in general, and been through the real, like I said, heyday of what was motorcycle racing in the 70s. And into the 80s, 90s. He's done all sorts, you know. So it's great to have that support from him. And then the only other kind of hero I would have is Valentino. Really, to be honest, Valentino Rossi. Yeah. It's probably a bit of a boring standard answer, to be fair, Valentino, because I'm sure most people choose him, but you know, he's actually the complete opposite of that, isn't he? Really, he was never boring at all. He was super flamboyant. Really brought an extra oomph and pizzazz to the sport that probably we've not seen for a very long time, at least, if we'd ever seen it before. You know, and he's brought way more fans to the sport than anybody ever. And you know, I think because of them reasons alone, never mind the fact he's a 9-time world champion.
I was going to say, do you look up to him off the track as well, in terms of, you know, he's a global sensation and he's an entrepreneur as well, as are you, because you've got so many products out there, and, you know, you're not, if you don't mind me saying, you're just not a stereotypical racer. You're obviously clearly a lovely guy as well, but you've got something about you as well. You know longevity, and you probably, as your dad couldn't, you can't ride bikes forever, but it looks to me like you're setting yourself up for the future wisely as well.
Yeah, I try to. So fingers crossed. Yeah, I've got a few things going on. Obviously, I'm racing still myself now, and I race inside the British Superbike Championship as well as the Isle of Man TT, and I do some other one-off races as well, such as the Northwest 200 or the Macau Grand Prix. I've been lucky enough to go and race in New Zealand in the past as well. I've done some World Superbike races. Hopefully, we can do a few more of them even in the future. Let's see. But on top of that, I'm trying to branch out into all sorts of different areas that's almost away from racing, but still somehow connected. Because at the end of the day, I like racing. I'm well into racing, and I like motorcycles. So from my racing side, I have my own merchandise. So I actually design and produce my own T-shirts, caps, hoodies, stickers, all that sort of thing. So I've got my own clothing range. But then from more of a business point of view, I've got my own performance center as well. So I have PHR Performance, which is Peter Hickman Racing, obviously. But that's for anybody. So we're actually even doing quite a lot of competitor bikes and engines at the minute. So we are an engine building facility that we can tune and design and build our own engines. We can do any sort of motorcycle and any prep work you want to it. So whether it be any manufacturer, from normal maintenance all the way through to turning a road bike into a full-blown British Superbike or World Superbike, we can do everything in-house. So we're talking electronics, engine, suspension, graphics, paint, you name it, we can do it. So we really are like a one-stop shop for everything to do with motorcycles. Like I say, that's for road bikes, off-road bikes, track bikes, race bikes. It doesn't matter what it is, we do it, you know. So it's become quite big over the last kind of 2 to 3 years. I've only been running it for a couple of years, but it's getting there, and we have some really good contracts with companies such as Triumph Motorcycles, where we're building all the next generation engines for the Supersport class. So anybody that's running a Triumph 765, whether it be World Championship or British Championship or National Championships or IDM in Germany or the CV Championship in Spain or the AMA series in America, we actually build the engines here in the UK and then ship them out to all of them teams. So fortunately, everything's kind of been going in the right direction.
Would you make a good gin and tonic as well then, given your Instagram that I was looking at as well?
Yeah, we've actually just been nominated in the top 20 gins for the world with the PH60 gin, which is really, really cool. I teamed up with Dom and Marta from Bocchini Drinks to make the gin. And yeah, they do a fantastic job. And I'm not just saying it when it's actually really good product. It's a really, really nice gin. We do our own rums and things as well. We've got a few different flavours and stuff, but it's actually the London Dry Hickey 60 gin that's been nominated inside the top 20, so which is pretty cool.
Love that. I mean, it's yourself, Ryan Reynolds. I think The Rock might have some as well. I can see you rubbing shoulders with that mob, mate. Don't worry about that. And I know you're between races at the moment. I mean, to use a very boring football cliche, taking each game as it comes, then dialing up and dialing down between races, is it just to the next race? Obviously, you're busy doing business stuff. You're taking the time out to talk to us, which we absolutely love and appreciate. Is there always half a mind on being absolutely spot on, ready to go next time you get that tap on the shoulder to go belting down a track somewhere? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we've got Alton Park. So I've just been to Navarra in Spain, raced the British Superbikes over in Navarra. And then next, I've got some testing coming up next week at Alton Park, and then we race at Alton Park the weekend after. So Wednesday, Thursday next week is testing, and then I'll be racing Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then actually the Monday night, I finish racing on the Monday, drive the motorhome over to Liverpool, get on the boat and go over to Belfast, and then up to the Northwest 200 for that week. So it's pretty much one thing after another. In fact, pretty much now until, well, for the next kind of 8 weeks, I'm pretty much racing every week or every weekend. So I got, like I say, BSB Alton Park, and I go straight to Northwest. I come straight back and do Donington Park, then go to the TT for 2 weeks, and then come straight back and do Knockhill. So it's pretty flat out, and obviously different disciplines in that. You know, the road racing is a different discipline to the British Superbike Championship. So different type of riding. I ride in BSB. I ride just the FHO Racing M1000RR Superbike, and we ride it in one particular spec, and that's how we ride it. When I go to the roads, I ride a superbike, a super stock bike for FHO. I ride a super sport bike for myself, which is the Triumph 765, and then I'm going to be riding a little Yamaha R7 in the Super Twin race for myself as well. So I've actually got 4 bikes and 4 different classes to race in at the Northwest and the TT. But in between all that, I'm doing BSB on a 1-spec bike. So there's a lot going on. So yeah, the next few weeks for me is super, super busy and technical. In Superbike, we have to race with the Pirelli tyre. So it's a one-make control tyre. In British Superbikes, everyone runs Pirelli. You don't have a choice. When I go to the roads, it's actually open. You can run anything you want. And I choose to run on Dunlop tyres. And the biggest, you'll know these yourselves, but the biggest difference you can ever do to a motorcycle is change the tyres. Yeah. Like, it's the one thing that sticks you to the floor, and it makes a huge difference to how the bike feels, how it reacts, how it works or doesn't work, what it will or won't do. So when I'm going in between all these different races, not only am I riding different motorcycles, I'm also riding different tyre manufacturers, which can be a bit of a mental problem sometimes. It's really hard to adapt fast.
You've got so much going on.
The different tyre
Excuse me if this sounds a bit weird. You often have to look between your legs and think, oh yeah, I'm on this bike today. Hang on, I'm using these tyres. Because I would forget what I'm doing. Your calendar is so busy. You must get on the starting grid and think, what bike am I on? Yeah. Matt,
which one are we on today?
Your expertise and your knowledge and skill, it just must be crazy to go from, as you said, so many different, not only tyre compounds, but bikes you ride, and then you've got your business. What, out of everything, if I can ask you, it might be a bit of an open question, but what, at the moment, floats your boat the most? What bike do you get on, or circuit or road race get on, and you go, yeah, today's a great day? What floats it for you?
Superbike, the hardest bike to ride, but it's also the most rewarding. So because it's hard, it's difficult, and not everybody can ride them. We often get asked why the superstar bikes are so close to the superbike times, or often the front-running superstar riders are like almost inside the top 10 of the superbike class on times-wise. But you put them riders on a superbike, you'd think all of a sudden they'd be right at the front, and actually what normally happens is they go backwards and they go slower than what they can ride a superstar bike. Just because the superbikes are so hard to ride. I can't describe just how hard they are to ride. They're so tight-knit, highly strong machines that don't particularly ride easily.
Sounds like my missus, that.
You'll pay for that one later, won't you? But yeah, once you do get it right, then it's the most amazing thing and the most amazing feeling. And from a circuit point of view, yeah, again, the TT, it is just unbelievably difficult, complicated, long, grueling. The fact it's 2 weeks. But again, if you can achieve, even to finish all your races there, is a big, big achievement. Anything more is a massive bonus. So, yeah, the superbike's always going to be the best bike. It's the hardest one and the most rewarding. And TT's absolutely the best circuit you could ever go to.
Right, we're going to have a quick bit of mid-show housekeeping. If you haven't already, please press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from so that you don't miss an episode. Or you can watch the whole show right here on YouTube. And if you are watching it on YouTube, Hickey's not sat in some kind of subtropical paradise.
Unfortunately,
which I suppose at night it may turn into a subtropical paradise, depending on where you go, doesn't it? I know we've been asking you so many questions about the TT, mate, but broaden it out into racing in general, as you mentioned, the different bikes, the different tyres, the different circuits, the different conditions. From a mental point of view, what's the night before like and what's the night after like? Are you a good sleeper? Can you sleep soundly knowing you've got all your prep done? And the adrenaline buzz off the back of it, given that you've done it for so long, have you developed skills to be able to work on both before and after? So you mentally okay and ready and rested and also recovered well?
So I'm probably a bit of the oddball in the fact that I don't really get nervous ever. I've never been a nervous person, right? But I'm talking about life in general. So not just racing or competition point of view. I'm just not a nervous person. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily believe in fate, but I also don't think you can change what's about to happen. What will happen will be. I can't, the most dangerous part about a race is the first corner when you're all together. And lots of riders get nervous at the start. But for me, I'm kind of like, well, it will happen or not. If I'm putting myself in this situation, just get on with it. And if I'm finding myself nervous or scared of it, don't do it. I'm very much kind of a black and white person.
Very sound, that.
Yeah, very black and white person when it comes to that sort of thing. So having nerves isn't really something that I ever struggle with. So from a sleeping point of view, to be honest, I could lay down on this couch right now and go sleep in about 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's me boring you. So
that's
even
talking
if
to
you've
you.
had a hard couple of days at the TT, right, and yes, you're physically and mentally drained, so you'd assume you'd sleep anyway. But I would also assume your brain will be whirling, like going through, all right, I could have taken that corner slightly quicker. That was a bit sketchy. Tomorrow I'm going to ride it this way. Oh, tomorrow's weather's going to be different from today. That means X, Y, and Z. Can you switch off then after a race? You're not buzzing for hours afterwards. You literally can just go, that's done, relax.
TT goes on for 2 weeks, and we do, some nights. Like I know night one last year, I did 9 laps last year, night one. And bearing in mind it's nearly 38 miles around. So I did 300 odd miles of just pounding round and round the Alaman TT course. Although you're buzzing, you're also mentally drained and knackered. Yeah. So even if you probably wanted to think about it, your brain's kind of had enough, to be quite honest. But imagine that after 2 weeks, and not only have I got all that to deal with for TT, I do a lot of interviews, I do on stage stuff, I do bus lap tours for a sponsor, I've got people in the paddock, which is always brilliant. There's about 40,000 people turn to TT, at any one time, but over 2 weeks, there's a lot. The fan access is second to none. You can get everywhere with no passes apart from the start line and pit lane. Everything else is open. People are always asking me, can I get passes for the TT? I'm like, you don't need one. Just turn up. You can walk into the paddock. Anyone can just walk in. So, which is a really good thing. From a fan point of view, it can be quite difficult from a riding point of view because I don't get my own time to myself. But at the end of the day, it is also what the TT is all about. And I love the fact that the fans out there do have that access. And I always try my absolute best to give people what they want, whether it be a signature or a photograph or just a hello. Some people just want to chat. They just want to talk about something, or maybe they've been out the course somewhere and watching and they were saying, I was stood at such and such corner and I couldn't believe the speed that somebody did this or bumped there or whatever it may be. So, I get a massive buzz after the races, but I'm also pretty much had enough of life by the end of it as well. So I'm always ready to go to sleep as soon as I can do, to be quite honest.
I was going to say, I mean, that properly reflects what you've just said there about preparation and about what will be, and also the gist of speaking to you for about half an hour or so far about the type of person that you are. Because, and this is me, only because it's an ex-footballer's experience of it. When you watch it now, watch footballers getting off for coach, headphones on, hood up, not talking to anyone. I'm in the zone. Yeah, you're in the zone, but there's another 10 people and you're running around kicking a ball. You'd be forgiven, Nicky, for walking past people going, if I get this wrong, and I've spent a couple of minutes dicking around here, if I get this wrong, without getting too dark about it, that pat on your back just before you start, that nod of almost kind of good luck from the marshal, it's you, the bike, the elements, and that's the margin for error is so minuscule. I'm telling you stuff you already know here, but would that again? I don't want to drag anything too dark out, but does that dovetail into what you're saying of what will be, but the other end of what will be could be something that could be the full stop, couldn't it? Really?
Yeah. It's something. I don't really ever have that problem as such. Again, I go back to that. What will be. No one's forcing me to be there. I want to be there, and I know what the consequences are if I make a mistake. So for me, I have already accepted all of that consequence if I make a mistake. So for me, I don't ever really think about it because I've already accepted it. And if I didn't accept it, I wouldn't be setting off down the road.
Yeah. because Dave and I often talk about the TT, and a lot of people say, "Oh, those guys are nuts. They're crazy," but it's not, is it? You've just got an insane respect for your own ability and your confidence and your riding skill. Like you said, unless you make a mistake, and the bike. I mean, bikes are far better than myself or Prutz will ever be able to ride a bike like any of you guys. But do your loved ones ever say to you, "Oh, this is a last year. Come on, there is a danger attached to TT"? I mean, obviously, you've got people who love and care about you, and your dad was hurt from it. Or do you just say, "No, I'm good with what I'm doing"? You're obviously at ease of what you do because you know you can do it well.
I'm sure if you ask them directly away from me, yeah, obviously they're not going to be massively happy about it. But also, it is a selfish sport. It really is. But yeah, it's my choice, isn't it? At the end of the day, if that's what I want to do, then
it's what you're born to do. By the sounds of it, with your dad as well. It's in your blood, isn't it? You're going to be a racer.
Exactly. Yeah, and nobody's ever told me no. I don't want you to do it. Of course, they all know the risks, like I do. But they're also always there supporting him. My mum and dad come to the TT for the whole 2 weeks. They're always there. They're always around. I've got all my friends and family are pretty much there all the time. So for me, it's not something that it's not at the forefront of my mind thinking about while I'm there in particular.
There's a lot of what we talk about on the podcast is and there's something that's reminding me about speaking to Billy Ward, the motorcycle adventurer, because bikes are the vocation as well as the passion. But for other people we speak to, bikes are that escapism, that thing to do on a Saturday afternoon, on a Sunday, to get out and lose yourself. So do you go out for pleasure? Can you go out for pleasure? I mean, it sounds like you don't really have time to go out for pleasure to pool around on a bike. Is it something that you still, if away from the track, away from the TT, where you've got, I don't know, you're slightly more relaxed motorcycle gear on, you know what I mean, where you can get on and go, do you know what, I'm just going to go and disappear off for an hour or so. Is that still something that you can do and are able to do?
It's not very often that I get to ride a bike like that. Normally when I ride a bike, I'm riding at 110% all the time. I don't ride on the road very often. I do have a road license. You'll find a lot of the riders don't even have a license. I do have a license.
No way.
Yeah, a lot of racers don't have a road license. Yeah, because you don't need one to race. You just have to have a race license. But I've had my license now for 11 years, something like that. Yeah. I hardly ever ride on the road. I ride way too fast because I'm not used to riding at part throttles. I'm not used to riding at a constant speed. So whether that be 30 mile an hour, 40, 50, 60, I've never done that. When I ride a bike, I ride it 100% throttle, maximum revs in every gear until I need to brake. So I really struggle to kind of back myself off. When I jump on a bike, I ride it flat out. So I really struggle to ride on the road safely and maturely. So I try not to be quite honest. And if I do ride on the road, I ride something really slow. So I'll never ride a big bike. I ride, I've got a pretty RS 250 from 1995, Reggiani rep. So I'll go and ride that. Or I've got a 1982 XS 400 Yamaha Twin, which will do 70 mile an hour absolutely flat out. So I go and ride something like that instead of something more modern and big that will do 100 mile an hour in first gear, because I will be well over 100 mile an hour everywhere. So I kind of take that risk away from myself. And as daft as it sounds, riding on the road's dangerous.
It sounds so bizarre, doesn't it, coming from a TT record holder? But you're right, though, because with the superbikes, you've got a runoff, you've got the gravel pits, you've got the marshals. On the road, you've got some idiot coming the other way, not looking on his mobile phone, driving a bus. It is what it is. But in terms of what you've done with your career, because you've done so much, and, your gin's doing well, your merchandise is doing well, you've got the British Superbikes, the TT, all of this. What are you most proud of to date? Because I know you said earlier the records are there to be broken, but in terms of what you've achieved in your career so far, what do you look at and think, yeah, I'm really proud of that moment?
Not really the sort of person that kind of thinks that way. I'm not really somebody that kind of goes, oh, I've done that. I just kind of do what I want to do and then move on to the next thing that I want to do. I think winning my first senior TT in 2018 was something that was particularly special, particularly in the way that it happened. There's only 2 seconds between me and Dean Harrison. The whole race, Dean led actually for 5 3/4 laps. It was only the last quarter of the lap that I actually even led the race. I won my first TT that year as well, so I'd only actually had one win and then won a senior. A senior TT win is, that is the big race, whether people like it or not. A lot of people say it's just another superbike race nowadays, which it kind of is, but you can actually ride a MotoGP bike in that if you had the capacity to. But it's still the senior TT, and there are some huge names that are on that. There is. I was looking at it actually the other day, and somebody had the list of all the senior winners from since 1907. The Isle of Man TT has been going since 1907, the longest standing motorsport event in the world. And there are some huge names on there. People, if you're even into bikes remotely, you'll know half of the names on that trophy. So to have my name sat there with all of them, even when I look at the trophy and see my name sat there, that's a proud moment.
No.
I mean, Hickey, this has just been an absolute pleasure, mate. And given listening to how busy you are and what you need to be doing, I mean, myself and you, we would be here for ages and ages and ages talking to you about this. But I understand time is very, very precious to you. But it's just been an absolute privilege.
And two things have definitely got to come out of this. We have got to come and watch you at the TT. And when it's over, we've got to share a bottle of you can have the gin, I'll have the rum. I'm a rum drinker, so I'm a rum man. Yeah, honestly, it has been a massive privilege because
perfect. Me too.
Huge respect for any sports person who excels in their field. But for what you do, coming from two guys who ride bikes not very well, just thank you for coming on, because we've got the most amount of respect for you and for what you do. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Well, get yourselves over to the TT this year, and we'll go do some car laps.
We shall indeed. Great, we shall indeed. If that'd be, I mean, okay, but like I said, sad. I mean, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We've got to say a big thank you, of course, to bikesure. They're the ones that power Full Chat, the UK's largest independent motorcycle insurance broker. They'll tailor a quote for your exact needs and help save you money on your annual scooter, bike, or moped insurance. A bit like what Hickey rides a moped when he's away from the track.
Thank you to our amazing guest, Peter Hickman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure, mate. And best of luck with everything. We're going to keep a keen eye, of course. TT coming up very shortly as well. We're going to be glued to that one. Please don't forget to follow and get us anywhere you get your podcast from. Apple, Spotify, wherever you want to go. Or you can watch it all on YouTube, hopefully like you've done just now.
And as ever, thank you so much for watching and listening. And we will see you next time, hopefully with half as good a guest as today's episode. So thanks very much.